It's time for a fun story about why when you record remotely, you should never, ever use a laptop to record your podcast. And a little beer from Orange Hat Brewing. Many years ago, I was the host of a podcast called our Humble Beer Podcast. About this time of year, I was at the Tennessee Winter Beer Fest, which I know, I'm out in short sleeves, doesn't really seem like it's much of a winter, but it's Tennessee. You don't like the weather, you wait 5 minutes, right? We were there and we got invited to actually record and interview some of the brewers that were at the festival in an old van, of all places. So we get in there and I decide I'm going to use my laptop. I had an audio interface through my Zoom H5 and I was just going to plug the microphones in there and then we would record directly into the laptop. We had some great conversations with these folks. They were brewers that don't normally get interviewed about some very unique breweries, and about halfway through the Calf Killer interview, my laptop crashed. The files were just gone. I was just panic-stricken because I didn't know what to do, how to get things back, and we had already spent 30, 40 minutes having a conversation with folks, and you can't get that time back. We took a break. As you can imagine, I had to breathe. I was on a MacBook Air, and it didn't have enough memory to complete recording, and so it just decided to stop, and the software system crashed, and lo and behold, I lost the audio for quite a while. Now, the good news is we were actually able to recover the files, and once we were able to do that, I was able to piece together a final episode of the show, but during the moment, we didn't know that, so we had to improvise. And let me tell you, there is nothing harder and more frustrating than losing part of a recording and realizing you either have to start over again or just find a way to keep going and pray to God that you can find the audio later. I say all that to say, you really shouldn't use a laptop when you record remotely. Yes, I know laptops have come a long way, even from the 5 or 6 years ago when this crash happened to me, but there's still an opportunity with a laptop for things to crash. So that's why I recommend a recorder with an SD card as opposed to using a laptop. You get a lot more reliability out of a recorder like this because they've already got batteries in them. You've also got the ability to plug in a DC power as well. So you can actually have this powered to a power supply, and then if the power goes out while you're recording, you still have the battery backup, so it'll still continue to record as long as you have battery power. That's a much more reliable system and a much more reliable solution, so long as you have the backup and the memory space for it, which for most audio files, you're not going to run out of audio space unless you're recording hours and hours and hours of audio, or you're recording at 32-bit float, which for a podcast is frankly just ridiculous. All that to say, I learned a valuable lesson that day, and that is don't rely on a laptop to record your podcast. Always have something better and more reliable and more dedicated to actually podcast production.